I will tell you, our guest today, she would have loved to bring her dog, but recently
Mhm.
passed. And so let's get our aprons on, our mugs warmed up because it's time to sit down with Carol Mithers about her award-winning book, Rethinking Rescue, covering the dog lady, Lori Weise, in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Welcome to our cafe.
thank you.
Yeah, now coming to a cafe like any normal cafe would be, what could we get you to drink?
I would like to go for a decaf cappuccino. I have tanked up on caffeine sufficiently this morning. So,
And it's still the morning, but yeah, you gotta hit it out of the gate sometimes, right?
yeah, well, there's a point at which it's like, so yeah.
I need to be forthright with you. I am playing a barista.
I will love it no matter what you do. How
That's
Oh,
about
very
that's
that?
so
kind.
Okay.
sweet. Well, we're excited to have you on. And I'm excited to dig in more into the book. But first, tell me about a pet in your life that has meant the most to you, like if you've ever had a soul dog.
I've never had a soul dog, but I've
Okay.
had 3 dogs
Uh-huh.
that I loved. They
Yeah.
were totally different, and I adored them all, and the last one died in September, and so she's the most, close to my heart at the
Yeah.
moment, and this necklace I'm wearing was given to me by a friend who is that dog's godmother.
Oh, that's so
She's a
sweet.
rescuer.
Uh-huh.
Our dog we are foster failures,
Yeah.
and there's a little picture of her embedded in the jewel, which
I've seen those.
and, I've been wearing it ever since she passed away.
Oh, yeah. And, I think we've talked about this before, but grieving a pet is so hard. I think a lot of
It's
people
really hard.
like don't see it coming, like it's they're a close family member, and then people feel guilt when talking about it because they don't want to admit to what that grief
Well,
is.
they're at your side all the
Yeah.
time, and so I think it's like I forget who it was told me that they felt weird because they were crying more for the dog than for their parent who had died, an elderly parent, but it's like they're there every minute. With our first dog, who was a very hungry lab,
Hmm.
every time I opened the refrigerator after he passed away, I would look because
Oh.
every time he heard it open, he would be at my side wondering what was in it for him.
Yeah. I've
So,
never met a lab that wasn't always
oh,
hungry.
they're ridiculous. He was the dog who, got up on the table once and stole an entire plate of pancakes while my back was turned briefly.
Briefly,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yes. I grew up with labs, so I am very familiar with those behaviors and tendencies.
Although the last one, the rescue after she
Uh-huh.
was with us from the shelter, she got a block of Costco cheese like this big, and thank God we caught it before she did any real damage to it or her.
Yeah, could you imagine if she ate that whole thing?
Big
Ev
vet bill. Yeah.
Everybody would be feeling that.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect because now we have coffee to bring us together for the things that we love, like our dogs.
Our puppies.
And isn't it funny in the moment when that happens and you catch them eating a block of cheese or stealing, you are just so frustrated and so upset. And then you look back at it with such love and endearing,
I
what you wouldn't
know.
give to have that moment again.
Yes, yes. The lab also brought down an entire platter of chicken on the floor. It's just
Well, maybe not that moment then, right?
Yeah.
we started to talk about places that were in the danger zone and
Oh,
everything. He was very tall.
the
So,
danger zone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Cheers.
the cheers to coffee together. I'll let you know which barista made which coffee as soon as you try it.
That is really good.
Well, Georgie made yours. As you can tell by the latte art on that.
Yeah, I feel like I think I was very lucky to receive the one that you made.
Yeah, Carol's has a very nice heart. Mine has a very nice, well, I don't know, what would you
Leaf
call this?
design?
Leaf? Tree leaf of some sort. And for you, I made a circle of free expression.
Yes, it looks like our 2-year-old drew it.
Hey,
It's a blob.
wow.
But it's great. It tastes great, and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
Delicious.
I haven't had this classic for a while. So that I can stand behind. Our coffee is delicious.
Very good.
How it's made depends on the barista in training.
As the show goes on, you will become an absolute pro.
I hope when you write your next book, you come back and we laugh about this moment and I'd say, "Oh, what are you talking about? I've always been an amazing
It's a
barista."
deal.
Okay, so thanks for coming on. When I first got your book, I didn't realize that, because I didn't read that you wrote it. I just thought it was Lori, the dog lady.
Uh-huh.
And I really enjoyed you telling the stories for her because it's so often hard to tell our own stories.
It is.
And I think just big compliments to you. Your storytelling was fantastic to help deliver some of the harder news, how
Yes.
you
Thank you.
developed characters, and
Thank
I
you.
really got to know a lot of the dogs, and I knew that tough dog on the corner, looking at everyone go, "Don't you dare walk down my alley." And did you read your audiobook?
No, I did not.
Okay,
I didn't listen to it either
okay.
because sometimes those things are it's just weird to
Oh, yeah,
hear it,
yeah,
you know?
for sure. Because it was funny, I read, I don't know, like, I'd say the first almost half of it, and then once you came on the show, I go, "Oh, I gotta get through this faster,"
Mhm.
and so I audiobooked it, and the voices that I had in my head from reading it and then carrying over to the audiobook were spot on.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so, big compliment to
Well,
you.
it was one of the most fun things for me about the book was giving the dogs voices because I feel like if you grow up with a dog or you have a dog, you can hear them speak to you. You know exactly what they're saying. And so being able to like put those words in their mouths was very satisfying.
It's so true. Every dog has a voice, and more importantly, or more so, every person has a voice for their dog, and a lot of times they don't realize that they're using that voice for their
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Case in point, and guard your ears, listeners. I used to have a friend that would explain her Chihuahua's voices, and she'd be like, "Oh, they're so cute. They came to me and they went, 'Give me an apple.'" And I'm like, "What? Where did this come from?" And then I was like, "Oh, your dog voice is so funny." She's like, "What do you mean?"
But that sounds right for a chihuahua, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does, it does. So, okay, so for our listeners who haven't read the book, walk us through this. How did this come to be? How did you get into the book? Tell us a little bit about it. And
Well, the short answer was that back in like 2012, I learned about a dog-related issue that I wanted to write about. I didn't know about it. And the same woman who gave me this necklace, who is someone I've known since junior high, who is a longtime dog rescuer, said, "You must go talk to Lori Weiss." So I met her downtown where she then worked, and I didn't get to see her funky kennel, which was at the moment behind the factory where she worked. And I started learning about what she was doing and had been doing since the mid 90s. And I found it so fascinating that I decided pretty much soon after that this was a book. So you ask why, if I knew that in 2012, the book didn't come out till
right?
2024.
Mhm.
And the answer it turned out to be a really complicated story.
Mm.
I mean, I thought I was gonna write about somebody who was a savior of street dogs, and it was gonna be a kind of a simple story. We're used to those stories. You of all people know those stories. A dog is suffering, we wanna find it a home. It's had a really terrible past, and it was much more complicated than that. She was working with these dogs, many of which belonged to homeless people then on the
Mhm.
streets of downtown, and realized pretty early on that their owners actually really loved them and wanted to be good dog owners and basically needed help doing that. They needed to be able to access vet services. They needed to be able to spay and neuter. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't help themselves in some cases. And so she began an effort that was helping not just the dogs, but the people. And that understanding grew to understanding that if you're talking seriously about reducing shelter euthanasia or shelter populations, you can't just emphasize adoption. Adoption is
Right.
absolutely important. We all believe in it. But that's dealing with a flood that's come in, and it's also helpful to deal with what is causing the flood. And in many cases, that's people who ran into problems holding on to their animals, whether it's because they were homeless, whether they were poor, whether they didn't understand the system, whether in some cases when she began working with owners who were not homeless but were merely poor, they might need a fence put up in their house to keep
Yeah.
the dog from roaming the street. They might need a dog house because they couldn't bring the dog inside. There were issues of how to access a vet because there are places in this city and many cities where in poor neighborhoods there are no vets. And if you wanna take your vet across town, how you gonna do that if you don't have a car? And maybe it's a 80-pound dog, you're not gonna take it on a bus. So, all of those factors that maybe people with resources don't consider and had been more accustomed to feeling judgmental about people who lost their dogs or turned them in because they didn't know what else to do, to try to reframe that thinking. And that's partly why the title is Rethinking Rescue. It's like, let's rescue, but let's also help the people and let's make rescue less necessary by keeping dogs in the places that they started out.
Amazing. And I commend you for doing that and for digging deeper and not just telling the story at face value, because it's easy to do that, to go, oh, I could really tell
It
this.
would have been much easier.
You would
Yes.
that would have been a 2013 release date.
Yes, and honestly, figuring out all of the different aspects to the story, whether it was pet rent issues and housing issues and vet issues and rising prices of veterinary care and all of that stuff.
And it's only accelerated,
Yes,
is the
alas.
challenge. It's one of the reasons we do this podcast, because most people that have seen me or see me, it's in the kennel with the dog.
Right.
And at that moment, it's really fact finding. And, it's like with most things that we do, whether you're a parent or a small business or journalist, author, you're putting on different hats. And the hat that I have on when I'm in the kennel is about that dog in that moment, not solving the world's problems. One of the exciting things about this podcast and why we're doing this is because our community is hungry for more answers.
Yes.
And as are we, and we see a lot of those, but it's not the appropriate time to talk about that. It's hard to talk about when I'm sitting with a dog that is just scared out of their mind, why it's so important to spay and neuter. That
Yeah,
dog.
and those are important stories too, and those are ones that really touch our heart because those dogs they need help and we love them, and sometimes they're more lovable than the people,
Yeah.
especially the ones Lori was helping,
All of the times almost. It's funny because I think that's the start, and then hopefully people will be willing, as they hear more things like this, to dig deeper and go, how do I get involved, or how do I become part of the solution? And I think your book gives a lot of really great points of views around that side. Let me frame this up and then I'll ask you questions, because I want you to feel comfortable just giving it to us.
Okay.
Because you see my content, and we are telling those rescue stories,
Right.
where we hook people. Like, I am specifically going in and going, I want to hook you, I want you to pay attention, and I want you to listen.
Right.
And at face value, it's because I want those views. The reason I want those views is I want that dog that I'm sitting with to find a home right there.
Right.
Because I've got my hat on to help that dog
Right.
right there. Then you go behind that and you go, well, you could do that all day long. I can't sit with every dog in the nation.
Right.
And what people don't realize is there are shelters we go to that we sit with dogs, and we don't ever publish that video because it wasn't the right thing for the dog. They weren't ready. And so, we end it, or the dog doesn't make it, and then we can't publish the video. When I moved to Los Angeles 18 years ago, I
Longer than that.
huh?
Longer than
Whoa,
that.
hey.
You're almost native. Yeah.
I've a lifetime in Los Angeles. Someone told me that the other day, and I didn't realize what a lifetime meant until I said, "Oh yeah, I'm a native California almost at this point." But when I moved here, I didn't have any money, and I rented up with a couple of guys at a loft that was owned by the owner of Modernica.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's a small world.
Small world. It was really cool. It was that Los Angeles gritty art loft, and it was. Now looking back, it was miserable. It was dirty. It was loud. It was dangerous. But at the time, you're young, you don't care,
Right.
and you're just invincible. But I have always loved dogs. I have always helped dogs, and I specifically remember on Saturday mornings waking up, going, "This is unbearable." The amount of dogs barking lined up for spay and neuter, and the people yelling at each other.
Those lorries,
I'm
Chris?
certain
I
of
bet
it.
they were.
Yeah, certain of it.
Was the loft on Bay Street?
It was right next to Modernica
Oh,
office.
okay.
Because in the book, you'll find out that the story largely centers around Lori working at Modernica and how she was able to incorporate that.
Mhm.
And Modernica is kind of and sorry if I'm butchering this, but a mid-century modern furniture that has over time become very loved in the furniture industry for its timelessness, and they've continued on. And so it's interesting, because now I know what I know. I would wake up and those would be music to my ears.
Yeah.
But we all take this journey of education as we go down the path of pet ownership. And I always want to remind people of that, because it's like the person at the gym that is just built and they are muscly, and they look at that person that hasn't, it's their first day in the gym and they're just disgusted by them, versus the person that goes, oh, hey, if you do a little bit like this, you're going to get it. It's going to work out.
I have thought about that a lot because I look back on my childhood dog.
Hmm.
We were terrible dog owners. I mean, we got this puppy because the people I babysat for, their dog impregnated a dog down the block,
Yep.
and it was cute. My father was allergic. The dog lived outside, was on a chain some of the time, was fed, crappy 70s
Yep.
food,
Yep.
and never went for a walk, and we didn't know
You
anything.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel in retrospect really bad about it, but people learned.
People learn, and it's the amazing thing about dogs is they love you for where you're at in that journey.
Yeah.
I've never had a dog go, "Hey, pal." Like,
Oh, they look at you if you don't take them out for a walk.
right.
They
That
do look at you. One of my dogs, when I was writing the book, and it was like 5 o'clock, 5:30. He would come up and push my hands off the keys. It was
Yeah.
like,
It's
lady,
time.
time,
yeah,
time.
for everyone listening. What are some of the biggest challenges Lori faced? Would love to hear some of the stories and some of the challenges and some key parts of the book that you think you'd want people to know.
The more systemic challenges she faced was in the 2013, shortly after I met her. She started doing a program called Intervention,
Okay.
where she had a paid counselor who sat at the door to the South LA shelter, one of the city's busiest. And when people would come to surrender their dogs, because about a third of dogs that end up in the shelter are surrenders, they're not strays, they're
Right.
surrenders. So she would ask people why, and can I do something to help you
Yeah.
not do this?
Mhm.
And the answers were all about pretty much about money. The dog keeps getting out, and the landlord said, I got to get rid of it. I can't find a place to live. The dog needs stitches, and I can't afford it. The dog is old and dying, and the only way for me to get it euthanized is to surrender it at the shelter. And so it was that understanding that these are basic human economic problems that were in some ways, in many ways, responsible for the dogs ending up in the shelter. I mean, you saw in 2008 when we had the terrible recession, and then again after COVID when the price supports and eviction prevention ran out, there was a big spike in animal surrenders because people love their animals, but if they can't afford them and if it's a question of feeding the kids or the kids usually come first. It's
Yeah.
very hard to find affordable housing. It's twice as hard if you have an animal. If you're in a precarious housing situation and the landlord says to you, "Well, I didn't really want you to have a dog. Get rid of it or move," you're kind of stuck.
So when you first started writing this book, you said in 2012, has your perception of the problem changed over, the next 12 years until the published date? Or take me on that journey.
Yes, because at first I really thought that Lori was just this fantastic person working downtown, doing heroic work, going on these gritty streets and saving animals. And I think the fact that she moved into the intervention program shortly after I met her, that was what let me know that it was actually really an economic issue that had to be explored. And then putting together all of the facets of this book, the history of how we started the no-kill movement, the history of sheltering, the history of feeling critical of people who didn't take care of their dogs. That changed shortly during the Black Lives Matter summer because it started me thinking that some of this, it was not just an issue of economics, it was an issue of justice.
Mm.
And that was something that she talked about too, when she talked about homeless people early on and their animals, she would think like, okay, you're living on the street with a dog, and many people would look at that as this dog really deserves a better home. But you love that dog, and maybe you actually were the rescuer. Maybe you found that dog starving in an alley and took it into your tent. Maybe it was a puppy that someone had abandoned in a pipe, and you pulled it in and warmed it up. And that it was both practical to help those people, but it was also a question of moral justice. That being said, she did not ever give a dog or leave a dog with somebody who was abusing it.
Sure.
In fact, if she saw that or heard about it, it was like her line was always, "That dog is mine." Like, you beat it, it's mine.
Yeah.
You leave it alone for 3 days, it's mine.
But In your book, you talk about this. She had to make some tough decisions where sometimes she wanted to keep that dog.
Oh, many times,
Yeah.
many times. In some cases, the dogs. In one case that I wrote about, she spayed a puppy for a man who was living on the street, and it was cute, and she knew she could have found it a home, but she needed to give it back to that man because it was very important to have the credibility on the street where people didn't believe if they handed over their dogs, they'd never see them again. She wanted to get them sterilized, but the puppy was hit by a car and died, and she was absolutely devastated about that.
Lori probably wouldn't want this, but tell us a little bit about her, how she started, all the amazing things about her, and what she's doing now.
Well, she fell into this completely by accident. She was a kind of a lost soul in her early 30s. She'd come out of a very hard time in her 20s, which I go into in the book. She had never talked about that until we sat down to do this. And she just saw all of these miserable animals on the street. And she had grown up in a kind of troubled family where her rock and companion was her German Shepherd. And so she always loved animals. And she and a coworker, Richard Tudelmondo, who is also a dog lover, just started roaming the streets and
Of downtown Los
of
Angeles,
downtown Los
and
Angeles.
because most people are listening to this, we'll throw a picture up if you're watching this. How much, I mean, wet soaking wet, she weighs how much? Like
She's tall,
tall.
skinny, and,
Yeah.
like, I call her, like, the whitest white girl in my
Ex Yeah.
she has red hair, and she's pale, and yes, she was very noticeable, and
You wouldn't take her downtown for security, but she navigated those
she
streets, like
navigated it, and she went into places that were, in fact, very dangerous, and she has a really amazing ability to talk to anyone.
Mm.
I've seen it. She still does it now because I was out with her just a couple of weeks ago where she had taken some dogs from a woman who was living in a very funky trailer in a very funky street in Southeast LA. This woman had a lot of dogs and they were reproducing uncontrollably. And she persuaded this person to give her the dogs, and she's gradually neutering and spaying all of them, but she doesn't react to it. She can talk. She doesn't seem to notice danger, although she is aware of when she is in danger and gets herself out. But she can talk to people who are really off in a different place than most of us and do it nicely and to where they are willing to engage with her.
That's
It's
awesome.
astonishing.
And her perspective is so unique too because you get, in a world full in dog rescue, in a world full of um galas and high fives and clapping
Yeah.
and winning. She doesn't want any of that, and she's out doing the real work.
She does not want I don't think she even owns a dress, much much less gala wear. No, she's totally not interested in drama, she's not interested in promotion. It was v in some ways, for a journalist, it was a little frustrating because if she was on, giving TED Talks, there'd be more people buying the book, but that's not what she wants. She is a quiet,
Mhm.
street-level organizer who gets her greatest satisfaction from dealing with people, knowing what's going on in her turf, which she has never expanded either. A lot of organizations want to bring in
Right.
millions and they're national. Nope. Southeast and South LA. That's the community she knows. She wants to know where she's working. And she has people that she's been helping and that she's known for decades at this point.
Well, and that's why I love that you did a book with her because there are many of her in tougher areas across the United States and the world, but they don't ever get highlighted. And I'm type A personality. Put me on a stage, I'll entertain you, no problem. Makes sense. But I think, and people mean well by this, but when they leave comments and when they reach out, say, "Oh, thank you so much. You're just a godsend." And no, 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 no. I am not rescuing this dog. I am a part of a team. People like Lori and people out there deserve this. And I think the inspiring thing about her is whether you are an introvert or you don't feel like you want to be a center stage or do all of these things or have all of these accolades, you can just be you and still make such a dent and an impact in this world of rescue working with
I
animals.
one of the people I interviewed about her said that she is on a spiritual mission, and I think that is a good way to describe her. She's not overtly religious, but I think that is what she is. Like, a character, someone who, whether it's for the church or for the good of mankind or whatever, just feels compelled to help. She said it to me one time. You could have a pile of garbage on the street and like 9 people will walk by. She's the one who'll see it and pick it up. Because when she sees a problem, she wants to fix it. And she gets a great deal of satisfaction from crafting creative solutions to problems. In this case, social and dog problems. But she really enjoys doing that.
And that's why I think everyone should read the book is because you will probably see a lot of that inner voice inside yourself going, I know I want to help and I want to make a difference and I want to make an impact. And then you start to go on this path of, yeah, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to leave
Right.
corporate America.
Right.
I'm going to start this. I'm going to do this.
Right.
And she didn't do that. She did it within the means that she had.
She still has a full-time job.
Oh, does she really? I didn't realize
Yes,
that.
this
Okay.
whole time that she has put in, I cannot tell you how many hours a week doing this dog work. She works
Yeah.
a full-time job. She manages the Modernica factory, which is a huge operation.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that is it means that she has an income. She doesn't need to be a personality. She doesn't need to make herself famous that way. She just does the work. And the thing that you mentioned people wanting to do everything all at once. And she said people come up to her periodically and will like weep and say, "Oh, I need to be able to do this. I want to give up my life." And it was like, you don't have to do that. You could pay somebody's vet bill. You could show up and volunteer at one of her events or at any such. There are many of those across the country now. Low cost spay and neuter, pet food pantries. That's a good thing is that her work, not alone, but was very largely responsible for changing people's thinking. And you see this stuff happening now in communities all across America that we understand people need to be helped. So go out and help one Sunday a month, one Sunday every 6 months. It doesn't matter. Something, anything.
We get so locked, I think, sometimes in our own world, especially if we're doing well or we're not struggling to pay the bills every month. And I came from a world where that was us. We were in poverty. We often had to make the decision of we can't buy dog food this month. And the good thing is we worked a lot on farms, lived a lot on farms, so table scraps. And now people would just be appalled, oh, you can't feed your dog this or that.
Right.
It was a matter of the dog living or not. We didn't know any better. And it resonates with me a lot because I think we put our blinders on and we say, I'm a good pet parent because I order my dog this amazing food that is fresh and sent to them, and I
Right.
get them supplements and I get them the best food. And by the way, I advocate for all of that, to do all of that. I think the true test of a real pet owner is that one that does everything in the only final last option. Because I know everyone says, well, I'd live on the street before I'd ever give up
Right.
my dog. You don't know that.
You-
Maybe you would, but
Mhm.
you don't know 100% until you're in that situation
Right.
and the decisions you have to make, often for the betterment of the pet. If you can't feed your pet, where's the next best place for them? It's shelter and safety, which shelters provide. I think that's one of the reasons the book really resonated with me is because I've been in that. And I think the world is getting more challenging with inflation, cost of living. I fear pet ownership is becoming a luxury. And I don't want that to be because we all deserve that animal in our life.
You do, and if pet ownership becomes a luxury, then the shelters are going to get even more full.
Yeah.
I think the part of the problem is that right now our neighborhoods and cities are very split, and that people like here we are in this lovely coffee shop,
Yeah.
and the people who walk on this street don't see what struggle is,
Right.
and don't. It's all abstract, and they don't understand it. And it seems almost incomprehensible
Mhm.
that, what do you mean you can't budget it? Well, I'm spending 75% of my low wage job on rent. And
Right.
people don't get it.
Yeah. I think that's right. In all the work you did and what Lori sees, what are some of the solutions?
Well, spay and neuter is a big one. And I think it's really weird that this city, which is facing budget shortfalls and full shelters, is not simply doing more of that,
Yeah.
but anything that could cut down on the flood. And the other thing that targeted, especially, I mean, it doesn't. You're going to spay your dog no matter what,
Right.
so I don't need to reach out to you. But neighborhoods and populations where you know that is a problem.
Yeah.
People maybe don't have the money, or people come from other cultures where it's simply not done as much and need to be educated. No, it's not going to make your dog fat. No, it's not going to make your dog crazy. And then simply making it available. I mean, what you saw downtown all those years ago when they
Yeah.
drove you crazy, you know, she made that easy for people on
Yep.
the street. If you come at 8 o'clock, it'll
Great.
happen, and I'll give you lunch too.
Yeah.
And it's not that as expensive to do that. And when you spay and neuter the animals of the people who simply couldn't access it, that then exposes the ones who are breeding on purpose, who are another issue.
Right.
And the other issue, I think, is that among more affluent populations who are demanding certain dogs and only certain dogs and doodles and French
Yeah.
bulldogs, and I get it, but there's so many not particularly respectable breeders out there and ways to get animals that are not humane. And then I don't know what we do about the vet bills. The vet bills are a huge issue. The cost of veterinary care has gone up even more than the cost of human health care in the last decade. And part of that comes because a lot of independent vets have been bought out by corporations and by private equity, and they want their return. And the vets come out of vet school with huge student debt. They can't just do it for free. I don't know it. I don't think anybody knows what the answer for that is.
I think that's right. That's how you can always test if someone says I have the answer, then caution.
I mean, there's a group that's putting forth a law they're proposing in California that private equity will not be allowed to own veterinary practices. I think that has no chance in hell of passing.
No,
But
no chance. Especially they'll just lobby. You'll never.
but people who have budget problems also don't often feel empowered to challenge things that happen at the vet's office. Like, you don't have to have blood work every single time you come in for like an ear infection. And you can turn down services without being considered a bad person. And you can ask what things will cost, and you could ask for lower priced ways to address situations. You know, will pain medicine take care of a problem rather than orthopedic surgery? Maybe not, but it's worth finding out. It's really complicated. We can't figure out human homelessness or human poverty. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. So how are
it
you gonna figure it out? But yes, I agree. The vet stuff is just out of control. Yeah, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, but we all have to take necessary steps. Even these money hungry groups, because they're going to bankrupt themselves right out of business. Because if no one can have pets because they can't afford them,
yep.
well, what is the
Yep.
point? So there have to be options. I think we have to stop guilting people. Like I always tell people, oh, what food should I feed my dog? I need to know the best food. You're feeding your dog. Congratulations.
Do what you can.
Like
Yeah.
the dogs that I'm seeing that just break my heart and I lose sleep over at night and we spend a lot of money on are the dogs that have been tortured and don't get food for years
Right.
intentionally from a very evil person.
Right.
If you're feeding your dog, dog foods come so far. Even the worst kind, cheapest, low
Right.
bottom shelf dog food is balanced. It has to be according to AFCO and FDA. Like we're there, so
Yeah.
that's good.
You know, speaking of evil, so you ask what people can do, and there's this is kind of a bug to me, which is because everybody sees the word rescue
Hmm.
and thinks you're saying you're an angel. When people give money or place dogs or take dogs, do a little research
Right.
and do not. There are some really bad actors out there. There are scammers. There are really crappy rescue groups. It doesn't take much to find them because if you do a basic Google search, the comments will come up and just put your money where it'll do good.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little look for, people being investigated by the Department of Justice and
Or even lots of complaints and a person saying, "Oh, they're all haters. They're trying to shut me down.
right.
I'm a victim." No.
It's a good point, and I think there needs to be more of that, and Kelly's smiling, she could go give you a whole list of complaints. We are specifically not a nonprofit for that reason. By the way, there are some amazing nonprofits out there doing the Lord's work and lifting boulders up mountains
Absolutely.
that I am
Absolutely.
so grateful for.
Many, many, many.
There are scammers, big time, and charlatans, the reason we've always done nonprofit is for me. I grew up receiving a lot of things, which I'm so grateful for the people who did that, and it just kills me a little bit on the inside.
Okay.
If someone were to show up right now at my doorstep with groceries, I would be heartbroken because I grew up that way, not being able to go get my own groceries. And so I work really hard to make sure that when we're working to advocate, it's an exchange.
Mhm.
So someone, if they purchase coffee from us or a book or they become a member, you're getting content or coffee or something. And then
Right.
we're using those funds as a good small business to do good in this world. Because there are so many people out there that are trying to mess you over, and then I hate it when that happens because then people question the people that are doing the
That's
right
right.
things.
It's really
But I'll
destructive.
tell you the fastest way to cut through all that. Do a little research, but even more so, just go visit your local rescue or shelter,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and your gut sniff test will tell you within 30 seconds of walking in that door
Right.
if your money is going to go the
Or
distance.
stay local.
Yeah.
If they're on Facebook, when Facebook came along, it was so easy for anybody anywhere
Yeah.
to post these pictures, and you
Right.
could send money and send money, and you have no idea truthfully where it's going.
Yeah.
So stay local,
Stay
speak to
local.
local friends.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The information's there.
So, okay, but how do I donate? I know, thank you. I bought your coffee, but we want to donate. Go, yes, your local rescue or shelter, they need you more than ever
Yeah.
now. And I think that's really good advice. The spay and neuter thing, we struggle with it because, when we tell the journey of the dog and why they're worthy of having their story told, it's really hard to incorporate spay and neuter. And it's so important, and I always tell like, if you see a well, you won't see a spay and neuter video. You know why? Because it's not sexy. No, the
That's right.
algorithm won't serve it up. And,
That's right.
and so if we were to do that, no one would watch the video. Even with us, you'd never hear
I
about
feel
it.
like we would need to get a room full of comedians and make it almost like raunchy.
You have to.
I know it's like
Like
this
I don't know how else to make it fun.
the horrible thing is that suffering sells,
Yeah.
but preventative care does not.
It's,
Right?
yeah,
You know.
and it solves the problems. I think before the end of this podcast, we need to have it all figured out. So no one leaves this room until that. This would be a 6-month podcast, and, and we'd only scratch the surface. What's a story from the book that you would want everyone to know about?
Well, I think one of my favorite characters was Benny, who was a homeless man that Lori met early on and who was someone who was partially disabled from a holdup that went bad, and who in his Home Depot shed in an alley downtown took in dogs and eventually let Lori spay and neuter most of them, and was typical in some ways of the people she deals with because he was someone with a good heart who really was not able to get beyond his circumstances, and who had a lot of bad things happen to him on the street, but was really the one who could tell her that her thinking had been overly simplistic, and this was the way to go. Now, the sad thing about Benny is that we tried to find him. She lost track of him, and we tried to find him while doing the book, and we found out he had passed away.
Oh.
It's-
What's the takeaway from the book that you think Lori and yourself would want everyone to know?
Don't be judgmental and do what you can. Do not expect perfection. And there is a moral and practical reason to help people as well as dogs because our stories are joined, and you cannot fix the dog issue without also addressing the needs of people. As tempting as that might be to believe that you could.
That's right. And it's a good reminder. We're in it every day, and it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get into because when I sit with a dog that's been wronged, you
Yes.
immediately start you naturally your brain starts going
Well, there
towards.
are terrible people out there. I mean, we
Yes.
can't say that there aren't. There are dogs that are genuinely
Yeah.
horribly treated, and those people should be put away and never allowed to have
Right.
another pet as long as they live.
But if we can solve a lot of the other things, it relieves the shelter so they can go after those people.
Yes,
People ask all the time,
completely.
"Oh, have you, yeah, what are we doing to get this person?" It's like the shelter doesn't have the resources to do that.
No.
Even the police department doesn't have the
The
resources.
police department had an animal cruelty task force, and it got disbanded
Oh,
for
really?
reasons that I probably it's about
Money.
budgeting.
Yeah.
But the issue of animal hoarding, that was the story I was pursuing when I was going into the book, in which Lori dealt with herself, and without going into all the horrible details, as people may be eating while they listen to this,
Eating and driving at the same time.
it's like it's really hard to punish those people
It is.
because they're not abusers like somebody who hits a dog,
Mhm.
right? They're just neglectful. And so you have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of animals that end up in really horrific conditions. And when their people are busted, there's kind of nothing that happens to them, and they go ahead and do it again.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
repeats for sure.
They're mentally ill, and we don't know what will help them.
That's right, and they don't see themselves as the villain, and even when you really break it down and they go, "Okay, yeah, I was bad,
No.
but it didn't start out that way," and it typically doesn't. They don't go, "I'm gonna get
So
all these animals and make them pay."
they don't get it because it fulfills some sort of really twisted need in them to have things that are dependent on them.
Right, and what's interesting is tying back to spay and neuter is it gets out of control very quickly.
Yes.
They don't
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how fast animals reproduce.
You can have a pit bull can have 9 puppies, and they can do it twice a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty soon you're swimming in animals.
You're swimming. But people and pets, I think that's the message, and we are so interconnected and
And the other message, okay, the
Yeah.
other message is that we have let, I think, care of animals and how we see them divide us,
Mm.
but we all love them, and that goes across neighborhoods, races, classes, ethnicities, and we can let that love be a uniting force.
That's right. It really does break that down because it's a common ground we all have, and it's and not even just in race and economic, and just even day to day. I'll tell you, this weekend I was walking on a bike path, and I am the dog guy.
Right.
Most people would they say, "Oh, here you go. I know you. I watched your channel, and etc." And there's this dog in the middle of the path, and I'm like, I don't know. I was just not in my best form, and so I kind of went around. I was like, okay, like I'll walk around. It was enough where the guy heard me, and I one, if you're listening, I apologize. That was rude of me. And he goes, "I'm sorry, my dog just needs a minute to cool off. I think he's overheating." And I'm like, "What am I doing?" I turned around and I said, "Man, I got some water. Do you want some water?" "Yo, that'd be great." We get him some water, and like
Yeah.
it immediately took me out of my sour mood and helped me be a better person. And I think you're right. And when people go, when they see the videos and they go, "Oh, if, you're helping dogs, why don't you help people?" I've never seen anyone go, "Well, I can't help people because I'm helping dogs." Like the more you give, the more you can give.
A friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, read the book and wrote to me that there was some young man, homeless, who he saw in front of his store with his dog. And instead of frowning at him, he stopped and smiled and patted the dog. And it was just that moment of human connection. And sometimes people who are down don't want, to be looked at with contempt and coldness. It's just a human moment means a lot sometimes.
Final question.
Yes.
Where can everyone get the book?
They can order it on any of their favorite book places. Amazon, Bookshop, Barnes& and Noble. It's out in paperback. Please buy.
Awesome. And how can people help Lori?
Their website is downtowndogrescue.org, and donations are always welcome. And anybody in the Los Angeles area who might want to volunteer, you can contact that way as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This was great.
Welcome to Kelly's Always Right. Okay, can I explain this
Please.
a little bit to everyone listening and watching?
Yes.
Carol Mithers came on, and this was actually one of the first podcasts we recorded.
Yeah.
Not that we've done that many, where this is still new, 10 episodes maybe? Something along that line. Yeah. And so many of you have been on this journey with us, but the audio was messed up. We just did it all wrong. We didn't know any better. But what we didn't want to do is miss the opportunity to share this conversation that we had with Carol, especially about Downtown Dog Rescue, because they've been doing it for decades. And It was just, I think, a good message. And we want to show all sides of dogs and coffee and have fun. Mm-hmm. And so, but this was an important message to get out. And so,
well, and I think too, it's specifically about Lori in downtown LA, but I think a lot of these things can be applicable to any downtown city. So whether you are local to LA where we're at, or you're in another major city across the country, I think some of these issues are going to be pretty,
It's nationwide.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear a lot more of your thoughts. Like, what did you think? Did you enjoy this episode? Do you like it more when it's lighthearted and fun? Do you like the serious conversations where we're digging deep? And since we're all new on this journey together, thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I think a lot of people don't realize that they haven't subscribed because it shows up and they go, "Oh yeah, we know Rocky and Kelly." And so they just watch it and think it's one of our normal videos. But no, this is the Dogs and Coffee YouTube channel. So subscribe, be one of the OGs with us, and let us know what you want to see.
Yeah, or what topics you want us to cover, who you want to have on the guest. Is it an expert, a veterinarian, a trainer? We are figuring this out with you. So help us help you.
We're really enjoying this podcast,
Yeah.
and it's a neat, fun side to the work we're doing in the kennels and on the farm. And so there's a lot more to come. We're talking about all kinds of different ways to do this, and just to continue to show up for you guys weekly, so that we can be sharing that cup of coffee every week and that conversation with you guys, because we appreciate you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to hear more about the stories that we talked about with Carol, go buy the book, Rethinking Rescue, anywhere you can get books.
Yeah, we'll link it in the description. Thank you. Definitely check out some of the other podcasts we've done. What's been one of your favorites so far?
Oh, it's hard. There's been so many good ones. But I really enjoyed Eliza just because we're in such similar life stages and she's fun. Like, I feel like she's somebody that I would want to go get a cocktail with or a cup of coffee or,
Yeah.
But then the episode with Zach just
Oh, yeah.
pulls on your heartstrings. And I feel like we could have sat and talked to him for hours.
We have.
So, yeah, we have. Yeah.
But we could have shared that conversation.
Right.
And we can have them back. That's the thing. If you have favorite guests that you really enjoyed, let us know. We'll have them back. Like, that's the fun thing about this is we can just keep having fun with this.
Yeah. Well, who's been your favorite guest?
I'm glad you asked. I don't have a favorite one yet.
Oh, you're supposed to say me.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Oh, man. See?
About that, yeah.
So, well, this is the end of the podcast. We love you. Goodbye. We'll see you next week.